Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Pages and Pearls. My name is Hannah, I'm the maker behind this channel. I am a London-based knitter, scientist, writer, all sorts of things, but those don't matter so much because here I mainly talk about knitting. And if you've been here before, you know that my most typical format are these kind of like podcast episodes, and that's actually what I'm here for today as well, just to take a moment and talk about all the things I've been making. So get settled in, grab a mug of tea if you want, or coffee or anything else that makes you feel good, and let's get started. Right, so just to get settled in, I am drinking this really nice chai. For my PhD graduation last year, my friends gifted me a year-long subscription to this tea company, Bird & Blend, and one of the kind of like nice things is that you always get these trial packages sent. By the way, this is not sponsored in any way, I just wanted to introduce the tea that I'm drinking, and the one that I am drinking is this mocha chai, which is a really nice blend of black tea, some kind of like chai flavors like cardamom and so on, and also little like cocoa nib pieces, so it tastes a bit chocolatey. It's really great. Anyways, not here to talk about tea, but mostly about knitting. I'll follow the usual format, talk about some finished objects, my works in progress, a few small plans, although I would like to actually film a separate video about my winter making plans. I kind of like these seasonal making plans usually a bit more than a general like 2025 what I'm planning to make, just because I find it always so hard to know or plan ahead for what I'll feel like making a few months from now. So maybe, hopefully, if I have the time, I will make this video separately, so not so many plans in this video, but in a separate one. And then I also have quite some favorites to talk about at the end. So let's get started. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is my first finished object is also what I'm wearing. This is the Rainy Day Tee by Sari Nordlund. It is a raglan top-down t-shirt construction. If I lift my arm, you will actually see that it finishes kind of like mid-bicep. So it's a very easy kind of cable pattern in the sense that you have these cables down the raglan lines. You also have them in the back. And then for the rest, it's stockinette. So for me, I picked this project because I really like the optics of cables, and I think if they are not these super intricate, different kind of mix of cables, patterns, but this kind of thing, it's easily approachable. So I wanted this as my first garment with cables in it, and it was perfect for that. I really enjoyed the yoke shaping, where you do get to do a few cables, but then in between you have lots of easy stockinette. That is kind of a nice mix for me between the more like meditative, getting into the flow of knitting, and having a few more interesting pieces along the line that kind of spur me on a little bit more. I really like these pieces where you have a good balance of both things, so that one was perfect for that. Just a bit more about the piece. So as I said, it's top down, it's a DK weight pattern, and I knitted in one strand of yarn, which is the John Arbon Knit by Numbers DK, which I believe is a 50-50 blend of Falkland Merino and Blue-Faced Leicester. It's the first time that I knit with this yarn. I found it in one of my local yarn shops, and I really wanted to try it because the mix sounded really nice, and also I just really love the kind of very slightly marled look that it naturally has because of the two fiber blends. The color that I chose is this kind of like grayish bottle green. I mainly chose this color because I wanted something that I could balance, or like that I could pair with some wintry skirts that I have that are patterned, mostly with a kind of like base black color. I will show you because I'm wearing one. One is this one. It's this kind of black skirt with golden polka dots on it. And I also have one that is that has stripes that are a bit glittery. And I really love these skirts for winter, but I always have slight struggles pairing it with tops because I own a lot of pattern tops. So I wanted something that fits with that, but it also kind of like still darkish enough in color so it fits the whole mood. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. The reason that the thought that I also had in mind with the skirts is that they are all kind of high-waisted, so I didn't want to make the top so long so I didn't have to tuck it in, but that it would kind of like fall naturally on the waistline of the skirt. So I'll just get up to show you. So this is the length. Unfortunately, I can't step back because the couch is behind me, but I'll try to put in some footage where you see it a little bit better. So I didn't knit it very long. And I also, one modification that I made was to, in the pattern, instead of 1x1 ribbing for like the collar, the cuffs and the hem, I switched that to 2x2 ribbing because I just really, really like the look of 2x2 ribbing. I'll get a bit closer so you can see it on the collar and also on the sleeves. Of course, with the 2x2 ribbing, you can't really do the regular tubular, well, sometimes it's turbulent, tubular bind off for it. So for the collar, I just kind of, since it is a folded collar, you can just bind off by kind of like sewing the cast off edge right into the cast on edge of the collar, just kind of like a normal folded collar. And then on the cuffs and on the hem, I just bound off on pattern. So basically just purl the purl stitches, knit the knit stitches, and kind of just bind it off as normal. I usually go a needle size up for that, and I make sure that the bind off stitch is kind of almost double the size of a regular stitch. I learned this from, I think from a pattern from Lily Kate Makes, and I just really like this bind off. I think it looks really neat, this kind of bind off for the 2x2 rib. So yeah, that's what I usually do. Maybe I can show you here. So you do see it here, but the good thing is that it's, because if you bind off loosely enough and because the knit stitch, it kind of, the bind off edge kind of sits on top, like not to one side, it still makes it elastic enough, in my opinion, to stretch well enough so you can put on the piece comfortably. Another modification is that I repeated the cables one extra time because I found that with my gauge I used a very different yarn from the one suggested, and also my row gauge was off, it was way shorter, so I just added another pattern without doing any increases to make the raglan a little bit deeper so it wouldn't sit like right into my armpit. It still sits fairly closely, but it doesn't press in or anything, and I feel like for a t-shirt where the arms are kind of, well, narrower or have a smaller circumference than for a sweater where you might have it a bit more oversized, I think the raglan sits quite nicely actually and comfortably. It's not uncomfortable or anything. As for the yarn blend, I really love this yarn. I really loved knitting with it. It's such a great feel. Maybe actually for a t-shirt that is kind of so close to the body and close to the neck, it wasn't my very, very best choice because it does have a few, I don't know, like longer fibers in it that I notice can feel a little bit itchy when I put it on. I'm wearing like a sleeveless top underneath, so that makes it a lot better. But yeah, I would really, really like to use this yarn for a sweater maybe. I think that could be really, really nice. And I'm very happy with how it knit up. It has some nice bounce to it, some nice loftiness without being too, I don't know, it's a good mix, I think, between softness and a little bit of rustic feel to it. So I'll just get up so you can see the color a little bit better. As I said, it has a tiny bit of a marl to it, not so uniform, which I find beautiful. It looks it's a bit lighter on camera right now because I'm trying to catch the light and the light is coming only from one side. But yeah, I think the way you see it here is more or less accurate. That is, I think, all the modifications I did. The yarn I talked about. Right, one thing that I'm not super sure about is the neckline, because when you knit the piece you do a lot of German short row shaping in the beginning. Was it German short rows? I think so. Or maybe actually you just don't close into the round for some time to make the front sit a little bit lower than the back, which is great for the fit. But I feel like the neckline, once you do join in the round, looks very wide. It also does say it in the pattern that it will be fine once you pick up kind of the stitches for the collar. But I still feel like the stitches are maybe not enough, because I do have a little bit of kind of puckering here. When I wear it, it's not too bad, but when I blocked it and when I just see it without wearing it, you see it a little bit more. So I think picking up a few more stitches for the neckline to have a slightly wider neck might be a good option. If you're okay with a slightly wider neck, I think that would be great to avoid the puckering. But that's it. Overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I think now I feel basically ready to maybe in my future knit a proper cabled sweater. I have a few other cabled projects here that you'll see in a moment. I think the motto of this one is the episode is getting into cables. By the way, I know that I didn't really name the color of this yarn, but as always, I'm linking my Ravelry project pages down below, and in the info box you'll just get a bit more information about like color codes and all of these kind of things that I don't remember off the top of my head, and I prefer to have them written down there for you rather than saying some random numbers in the episode. Okay, moving on to my next finished object. I knit Sophie Scarf. Here you see it in its full glory. I will put it on in a second maybe. I knit a Sophie Scarf as a Christmas gift in this beautiful kind of like teal green. It's somewhere between a teal and a pine green, I would say, depending on how it catches the light. And I absolutely love how versatile, or like how ambiguous this color is. I hope you can see it nicely here. Anyways, Sophie Scarf is probably nothing new to you. I followed the pattern in that I increased where the pattern says, but I didn't follow the number of increases that you're meant to do. I just looked until like which length I wanted the Sophie Scarf to be, and then decreased the same number of rows. The yarn that I used for it is the Kinross 4-ply, which is, I believe, a Scottish yarn. I have seen this, I think the Crea Bear talked about it, and I've been wanting to try it for a while, and that's my first time trying it, and I really like it. It's funny because it has this really dry feel to it in hank or ball form, and when you knit it up, it seems kind of lofty but dry, and then you wash it and it softens up so much more, and just has a really, really nice feel to it. It's 100% lamb's wool, I believe, and it comes in gorgeous colors. I actually when I ordered this one, I also ordered this really beautiful kind of luminant lavender color that I will use to make something for myself for, and I'm really looking forward to this. But since it's Christmas soon, I wanted to get this one done first. So just for you to see more or less, I mean, maybe these colors are not the greatest together, but it's okay. Just for you to see the length, so I can basically put it around my neck once and then comfortably kind of close it here, and have these two little flaps down. That's the length that I used. Actually, I also realized one kind of quote-unquote mistake that I made is that I didn't hold the yarn double. I just cast on with like a 3.25 millimeter needle, and the yarn held single rather than held double. But to be honest, if I hold it up to the light, I can see, not see through it, but obviously I see the light shine through to some extent, which probably would have been denser if I would have held the yarn double. But I really like the light feel of this. It doesn't seem very like too airy or anything. And this way I have more yarn left over than I thought I would have, but I can just maybe use that for some gloves or something like that. Some fingerless mitts. Yeah, that's my Sophie scarf done. I have a lot of other mini scarves on my wish list that I want to make, but I felt like for a gift and for this new yarn I wanted to try, I just wanted some kind of like comfort scarf that I had made before, that I knew how it worked, that I didn't have to look at a pattern all that much, and this was perfect for it, and I hope that my cousin will like it. Right, and my last fully finished object is another cabled knit. I haven't blocked it yet, so I'm showing it off in kind of not fully finished glory. This is the weekend hat by Hiromi Nagasawa, who is also, sorry, I just have to check it, Plain Needleworks. This is a cabled hat pattern that I've had on my wish list for a while, and I finally made it. And this is kind of like a mini knit along that I did with Chelsea from True Lane Knits, who very kindly picked this yarn up for me at, I think, last year's Flock Fiber Festival. This is the La Biename Merino DK, and it's, I think, in the custom colorway of La Mercerie, which is a yarn shop based in Seattle. It's the colorway Autumn Hydrangea, and this is the ball band. So that's the yarn. It's 100% superwash merino, which when I cast this on, I realized that I have been knitting very little with superwash merino, unless it's socks and it's kind of like a merino nylon mix, because it felt so different from all the pieces that I've been knitting otherwise, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, so this hat is basically a hat that has two different options. Either you can knit a folded brim or just a single kind of brim, and then you switch into this beautiful cable pattern all the way up, and then at some point obviously you start doing decreases, and the decreases are really nice because they are in pattern, so I don't know, I just find it very satisfying. Not sure how well you see it here, how it ends up looking at the top as well. The cables are fairly easy to get into. I think it's like the repeat, I think after I did it the first time, it was very easy to memorize, and it again balances nicely, like sections of just kind of like ribs, like knit and purls, and then some cabled rounds. And one thing I really like about the yarn is that it has these colorful specks in it. I think that here in this section you see them as well. It's a really pretty blend. I do have to say though that the yarn pulled quite a lot for me, in the sense that when I cast it on, I had these very light sections all gathered towards one side of the hat, so much that I was, I think, basically halfway through the ribbing, and then I ripped it back out to divide my yarn in half. I don't have a yarn winder, so I end up with yarn wound into like tiny balls like this. So the only way for me to get a second, like to split the yarn and then change it every round to avoid the pooling, was to rip out the ribbing and start again. But that was fine. I'm much happier with how it turned out to be now that after I decided to change the yarn every round to avoid the pooling. I do still find that there's a little bit of pulling of these colorful specks, but I think that's okay because they do partially also appear in some of the other sections. Yes, so for this hat I used less than 100 grams. I did one more repeat in the cable sections than the pattern suggests, because I didn't like how low it sat on my head when I tried it on after the last round of cables that is suggested in the pattern. And it's superwash, so it might still grow. As I said, this one isn't blocked yet. But also I found it didn't sit too tightly on my head, but if I can steer the stretch, I'd rather steer it into the width than into the length. So I'm going to try with blocking to kind of shape it as best as possible, that it doesn't grow too much lengthwise, and try to stretch it a little bit more width-wise to make the cables pop a bit better. What else can I say about this? Again, I just finished it. As you can see, I have woven in the ends. I haven't cut them off yet. There's actually, I want to see after blocking if I maybe sew down the brim to the end of the rib section so that it doesn't sit weirdly, but I'm not fully decided on that. I will put it on now just so you see it, and mess up my hair in the process, but that's fine. So here we are with it put on. You can see that it's a bit pointy on me. I actually prefer it to be a bit more pointy than sitting too close on my head. And as I said, when I tried it on after the last round of cables, it was just too close to my crown for comfort. But that's her. I think it's a really cute hat. I'm really looking forward to wear it. Actually, now for Christmas, so I'm based in London, but my family is from Germany, so I'm going to Germany tomorrow, a little bit before Christmas, and then around the holidays we are also going for a short trip to Sweden to get a little bit more of a wintry feel. So I am looking forward to take this hat with me and gallivant around the Swedish lakes and forests with my weekend hat. Very happy with it. I would like to make this pattern again. I really enjoyed making it, but I think the next time I would make it in a slightly more rustic yarn. So non-superwash, just something that has a little bit more to a farmy feel to it maybe, or use a kind of like lace weight mohair with a fingering weight yarn. I think that could also be pretty. I feel like at the bottom I have an end kind of like hanging here into my hair. I feel like the superwash hand-dyed yarn isn't what I love to knit with at the moment. So don't get me wrong, I love knitting with this one, but I think in general what I see in the pieces that I finish at the moment, or that I gravitate towards, are mostly different yarn blends. So that's why I would like to make this one again in another yarn. But yeah, that's the weekend hat. Right, moving on to works in progress. I'm gonna start with the ones that are half finished, both socks. The first one is one that you've seen in the last episode already, and this is the Under the Quilt socks, ideally, by Charlotte Stone, who is Stone Knits. This is a sock that has all over color work, and they are these fun, cute little quilt stars that I chose to knit in this dark brown. It's a John Arbon Exmoor sock colorway. I just had leftovers of this. It's really nice, really interesting fiber blend, and it's a bit more rustic, which I like, but it still is superwash, so you can still wash it, which is a great combination. That's one. And then the other color that I used is just a West Yorkshire Spinner Signature 4-ply. I think the colorway is Butterscotch. That's what I used for the yellow. And this is, just the first sock that I finished. I haven't cast on the second one yet because I wanted to focus on Christmas gifts, and I also needed a little bit of a break after the color work. I think out of all like color work, cables, lace, and stockinette, I guess, the one that I don't enjoy so much is color work. I prefer lace and cables, I think, so far. But it is kind of fun. It is kind of absorbing, or to just get started with a round and then kind of like paint by numbers almost, to fill in row by row and see this pattern form. But it is also more involved definitely than some of the other socks I made. So after I finished this, I just felt like a vanilla sock for a gift knit. The other thing is that so this uses a short row heel, but with the short rows it actually just turns, like it doesn't do wrap and turns or anything like that. And I'm not sure it didn't give me like any holes along the line where you turn here on the heel, but it did give me these massive holes basically where you start doing the heel and then at some point you join again. I did close them afterwards by just threading through some more yarn from the wrong side and closing them down. But ideally, obviously, I would prefer not to have to do that. Let's see if maybe with the second sock I'm a bit more comfortable with the construction, and I don't know, remember to pull it tighter around that part or something. Let's see if how that will turn out. Overall, I have to say, so far this is the second time I do some kind of like short row heel, and with the other sock that I've done it, I still haven't done the second sock because I stopped before that heel and didn't feel like making it. So let's see how it goes with this one, but I think the kind of like this kind of heel construction, we still have to become friends. At the moment, I'm more of a heel flap and gusset girly. But overall, I love how this turned out, the look of it, and I tried it on obviously, and it fits. It's comfortable. I can get it on, which obviously is always concern with color work, as it sits much tighter because of the floats. But I'm very happy with how kind of neat and even the color work turned out for me. There's very little to no puckering here, and I haven't even blocked this yet, so let's see even how it will turn out once I block it. Now that I hold it up in the camera, I actually really feel like making the second one, just so I can wear the pair this winter, because I think it's a really cozy and warm sock, since it is double layer with the floats as well. Maybe, well, since I'm going back home tomorrow and then to Sweden, and I'll be traveling for quite a bit over December and January, I have to decide which projects to take with me, which is really hard always, I find, especially if you go for a longer time and you kind of need to count on potentially finishing objects and so on. So I'm thinking if I should maybe move this into the queue of things to take with me, but I'm not entirely sure, because I think mostly I'll have knitting time when I'm like partially surrounded by people. So anything that takes too much focus in terms of checking the pattern to see how each row is a bit more tricky in that context. So let's see. Maybe this will be when I'm back in January. Cast on, the second one, I mean. Let's see. Next up, another half-finished project, which is another sock. And this is kind of like I don't know. This was me just wanting a vanilla sock. Without putting much thought into it. I am using this Drops Fable, I think is their sock blend. Don't remember the colorway, but it's this kind of like not fully striping, but like self-patterned striping yarn that is mostly grays, whites, and like shades of blue. I really like it actually. I ordered this because I wanted to use it for socks for my partner. And I just really like the look of it. It's not a merino, so it feels a tiny bit more rustic, but not scratchy, I think. It knits up nicely so far. And I just used a 3x1 pattern, or like 3x1, 3 knit, 1 rib, just after the cuff, basically straight down the leg, heel flap and gusset in a contrast color that I had. This is I forgot which one this was, but I think well, I'll just put it in the in the description or in the Ravelry page. And then I also used a different color for the toe. I kind of like how they're a bit like maybe messy in terms of colors, or they just look a bit vintage to me somehow. I first wanted to use this kind of like rusty orange also for the toe, but then realized I didn't have enough of it. So I think for the second sock I might either do it just the same way as this one or swap it around so that the heel is yellow and the toe is orange. Not sure yet. I think I'll just decide when I get there. But yeah, I just really like a simple sock like that. I find it very meditative to work on, and I usually just pop it into my bag to work on when I'm on the go. I went to Hamburg this past month to visit a friend, and I knit a bunch of this on the flight, and it was just very nice and very comfy. And then I came back and got a cold, so I don't know if you watched my last episode, but they already told you that I got kind of sick. So it's the second time in a month that I got sick, which is very, very annoying because, yeah, it just stops you from doing so many things, obviously. But anyway, this is the other finished project, and I think I will definitely take the yarns with me for this to finish it over the time that I'm away. Also because my partner just wants a nice and warm pair of socks, and I can make that for him, so there we go. Right, now to the actually active works in progress that I am currently working on. There are two, and none of them is a garment. At the moment, when I finished the tea, I really felt like knitting, well, Christmas gifts and accessories, small projects that I could go through before I cast on the next bigger thing, because I was working on this one for a while, and also the cardigan that I wore in my last podcast episode. So I just really wanted like few manageable projects, kind of hyper focus on some of them to get them done quickly and to really, not get to the point where I'm mentally done with a project but still have a bunch of it to go, because that's not the nicest state. And I feel like the more projects I have at once on the go, the more likely I am to get into that. So no garments coming. The first one, since we're on socks, let's just stay with the socks. The first that I want to talk about is at a very, very small stage still, and these are the Kuura Socks that are part of a knit-along that Wool & Twine is hosting, and the pattern is from a designer whose name I forget, but whose name I will put here. It's a mystery knit-along, although the mystery clues have almost all been revealed. It's basically an advent pattern where every Friday, for 4 Fridays in a row, you get a new clue with a new part of the pattern. And since I got sick and I really didn't feel that my brain was at the point where it could follow an intricate pattern and like a cable chart very well, I kind of fell behind. So I'm still on the first clue, but I am enjoying it, and I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it, because there are lots of different cables that have different kind of like repeat rates, but obviously the more you do it, the better you understand how each of these repeats. And yeah, so I'm a few rows into, well, I've done the cuff and then a few rows into the pattern, and this is something that I work on very sporadically whenever I really feel like being like fully focused on a pattern, because I really cannot knit this without kind of having my iPad in front of me and following each row. But it's nice. It's also kind of a nice showcase for me for what different cables there are. And I also absolutely love the yarn. The yarn is by The Uncommon Thread. It's a BFL nylon blend. And this is the colorway Nutcracker, which I picked out specifically because I wanted to use it for this advent pattern. It's this gorgeous kind of like golden ochre brown, and I really like the how it's kind of like tonal enough for cables but holds some interest to it as well. This kind of yarn I feel like is the stuff that I really like to knit with at the moment. I also like how Slightly more rustic it feels because it's a BFL sock yarn. Really enjoying it, and I hope I can make some more progress with this in the next weeks. Ideally, let's see if this will work, but ideally I would like to have this first sock at least finished in my next episode, which is probably coming sometime mid-January. Should be possible, but I also have other plans, so let's see. And then the other project that I'm knitting on, cables again, what a surprise, is a mitten. I made fingerless mittens for the first time a few weeks ago, and I showed them in my last episode, and I really liked them, or liked the process of making them. And I want mittens because I have a pair of kind of like gloves that you can use like on a touch screen, you know, that you don't have to take off if you need to look at your phone while you're outside, which they are great. But we've had a few really, really cold days, especially in November, also a few in December, where I just felt my fingers were too cold in those, and I wanted some kind of like mitten where the fingers are not separated, just to save a bit of warmth. And I've been wanting to make mittens for myself, so here we are. This is what I have so far. These are the... Okay, this is gonna be fun to pronounce. I think it's a Norwegian designer. The designer is Strikke Sophie, I think. And the pattern name is, I think, Høstflettevotter. At least that's how, if you would pronounce like every letter. I will put it in below. I think it is something related to autumn and gloves, maybe. But yeah, this designer has a bunch of really cool mitten patterns. I have another one on my list that has kind of like a twisted rib cuff, and then mostly just plain stockinette, but they look really nice, I think. Also like one that is done kind of in sections, so it looks a little bit like the Ingrid or the Storm sweater. That's another one that I kind of want to make. But the one that I picked first, because I really wanted to make this one, is this cabled one. As you can see, hopefully here, if it focuses, there are like two cabled sections here and one bigger in the middle. And in between you have this really nice ribbon, like pearl pattern or moss stitch almost. So that's the front. This is just the side of the palm, which is just basic stockinette. And I'm almost at the point where you kind of put in a few extra stitches for the thumb. I think the thumb constructions of this one is quite a bit different from the fingerless gloves or mittens that I made before. So I'm really curious to see how that will turn out. But yeah, I'm really loving working on this. I am using just Knitting for Olive Merino and Soft Silk Mohair, both in the colorway Rust, because I just love the look of them, and I love how they blend together and make this kind of like orangey brown, very luminant glove. Yeah, I really can't wait to continue on this one. I'm also making this as part of a knit along so this is the Magical Mittens Magical Mittens knit along, and it's hosted by the Knitting Swan on Instagram and Woozy by Celine, who also has a great YouTube channel. And yeah, I just wanted to take it as an opportunity to finally get started with some mittens. And this is how far I am now. Hopefully I will finish them either before we get to Sweden or once we're there. Obviously I'm not going to be able to block the cables properly without kind of like my pins and whatever, but I think still it'll be nice to wear them as soon as possible. Do these work together? It's not too bad, right? Like the color story maybe works-ish. I have a hat that is much closer to this in color that I made last year, and that's it's an Oslo hat that I wear all the time, so that's why I picked out this color. And that's it for my works in progress. The last few things that I can talk about. One is one of the plans. Another knit along that is starting on the 21st of December, so a few days from now. Hopefully this episode will go up before, so you could still join if you want to. And that is the Norma sweater knit along. The Norma sweater is a pattern by My Favorite Things Knitwear that came out a year ago, less than a year ago, I'm not sure. It's a very, very pretty, kind of like stripy color work sweater, raglan sweater with a mock neck, and then it has, well, I will show you my swatch, these kind of like stripes / color work lines. My swatch is still damp, so it doesn't feel so great to hold it up. But anyways, it's beautiful. I've loved the look of this sweater ever since it came out. I've been wanting to make it, and then Valentina, who is the owner of My Ivory Room, who also has a great Instagram account, is hosting this knit along, and she announced it at some point, I think in autumn. And when she announced it, I was like, okay, that's gonna be the moment when I finally knit it. So last week, after I felt well enough again, recovered from my cold, I went to My Ivory Room to pick out colors, because yeah, why wouldn't I go there to do it? Also, it's always great to kind of have the time and the space to put them properly next to each other. I think Valentina also gives great advice for color pairing, and I'm really, really happy on the ones that I settled with. I only knew that I wanted like a light blue base color because I haven't made many kind of like light blue sweaters, even though I really like how they look on me. And I wanted a pop of color, so I feel like the orange was just a really great choice. Just to tell you a bit more about the yarns, it's a lot of different yarns that I'm using. So the main color, the blue, is this Isar tweed and the silk mohair held together. The Isar tweed is a merino, is it merino? And mohair blend, which is interesting. And it has these kind of like very, very faint tweed specks that here you don't see, but maybe actually in the hand you see it better, I think. It's gorgeous, right? I'm really looking forward to this project. It was so hard not to cast on once I'd finished the swatch and to actually wait until the 21st, but we are waiting. Anyway, so that's the main color, and then I'm using this Knitting for Olive merino held double for the pop of color. It's really intense on camera right now. I swear it's not necessarily that intense in person, but I think this is the colorway Blood Orange, if I'm not mistaken. And then for the cream, I'm using Knitting for Olive in the color Wheat, I think, and this Gepard mohair. And those are all the colors together. And it's beautiful. And the swatch is also beautiful. I'm trying not to pin it down because I don't want to stretch it and get a wrong impression of the gauge. I also, for the first time, so you knit the swatch back and forth. It says so in the pattern. It's not, I was actually intending to knit it just in the round for the color work, but and I made a baby sweater that I showed in my last episode, where I saw that I had a little bit of rowing out when I was knitting flat, because my purl stitches are much looser than my knit stitches if I knit flat. So for this one, what I did was to size up a needle size for my knit stitches, but not for the purl ones, and it turned out much more even. I think in general it's not as visible with holding yarn combinations, because kind of like the mohair and yeah, I don't know, just somehow manages to balance it out. Wow, the light is really disappearing right now. It's the middle of the day. It should get brighter, but we have one of those gloomy overcast days where it just seems to get darker all day. Well, I hope it's still okay with the light situation here. Anyways, the knitting back and forth with the different needle sizes made it look much more even. So I think that's what I'm going to do also for the sweater, and then just switch to even-sized needles once I'm in the round, obviously, and just see how that turns out. But I think, yeah, it's kind of fun to see that helped. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this knit along. as I said, cast on day is 21st of December. I think it runs until the end of January, so even if you want to cast on a little bit later, you could. And if you want to participate, it is running on Instagram, and you can just use the hashtag or join, message Valentina to be able to join the Instagram group. People have started posting their color combinations, and they're all so beautiful. I feel like if you see like all the different ways of how you can combine, it's just really, really pretty, and makes me want to basically already like plan a second one before I even have casted on the first. But I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll focus on this one first, and that's for sure gonna be my main garment project that I'm gonna take with me on my Christmas trip and so on. Just because it's really the time to knit it with the knit along. And that's all for plans at the moment. As I said, I have other plans as well, but I want to talk to them a bit more in depth, maybe in a separate video. I hope I still have time to make this before I leave, because it's always hard to film when I'm home and I don't really feel like taking my camera. Anyways, a few other last things I want to talk about. One is a book that I'm loving. This is Bound, a memoir of making and remaking by Maddie Ballard is the author, and it is published by the Emma Press, which is a small press based in the UK. I have read one other essay collection of them before, absolutely loved it, so they kindly sent me this copy when I requested it, just because I thought it was so up my alley. Basically, I love essay collections that look at, food in a lot of detail, but then kind of like intertwine it with authors' life, thoughts, issues, whatever, right? Like just kind of like a lens into their life, but focusing it around one theme. And in this case, it's not food, but it's sewing. I don't sew myself. I've sewn one thing, which is this project bag that I have here in a workshop when I was still living in New York. I absolutely love it, and I would actually like to sew more because I really enjoyed it. I just don't have the things for it. Maybe I'll get them at some point. Maybe it'll be a hobby I start at some point. But anyways, Maddie Ballard is a sewist, and in this book she writes about all sorts of different objects, garments she sewed. Basically every essay, I just really love the format of it. Every essay has kind of like an illustration, and then also the materials that she used and the pattern that she used. And then the essay is a combination of kind of the creation of the piece, but also you get kind of a capture, like a little snapshot of what's going on in her life at that moment and how that interlaces with what she's making. I'm sure, for me, again, I'm not a sewist, but I 100% see myself in that with the knit pieces that I made, that when I pick up a piece, it really transports me back into the time when I made it, and maybe the things that I thought about while making it, the places I made it, what it symbolized at that point, if it was comfort because I needed something comforting, or if it was a challenge in a more kind of like otherwise very regular time in my life where I just wanted a challenge in the work that I was doing, in the pieces that I was doing. So these kind of things, and this is something that Maddie Ballard writes super well about, and I also love her sensory descriptions of everything. It's just, whenever I pick it up, I read these essays very slowly. You could read them fast, the book is not thick, but I just really like to take my time with them, pick it up, read a few pages, kind of arrive in the moment of how she makes that piece and how she lived while making that piece, and then go on my own way again back into my life. But it's really great. I think if you're a sewist yourself, you will love this. I think if you're not, but you're a knitter, which probably you are since you're watching this channel, you would also really enjoy it. It's just a really, really great book. I still have a few essays to go, and I'm really looking forward to them. I really liked in the last one, for example, that I read, how much it was also about body image, the body image of yourself, and the power that making clothes for yourself that fit your body and not your body having to fit into certain clothes. What a nice thing this is, and also how basically by making something for yourself, you always think about your future self, what your future self will be, what they will wear. It's just, I can't express it this well. I just really loved the way how she reflected on it in this essay, and I would very, very much recommend it. And again, thank you to the Emma Press for sending me this book, because I'm really enjoying it. It's such a joy to read this. Another last thing, not a book that I've read yet, but one that I'm looking forward to read in a very, very different vein, but that fits with the holidays, is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by the author Ali Carter. It is a Christmassy romance mystery novel. I hope you didn't hear my my stomach growl. I'm starting to get hungry. So it's basically about two writers, a crime writer, like mystery writer, and a thriller writer, and they both go to this English country estate over Christmas. They are rivals, I think, and at this country estate, it's by one of the biggest crime writers, but this writer disappears. So the two of them have to figure out what is going on. They are, again, rivals. They write different formats, and obviously, probably, they will also fall in love during this book. So this is basically what I'm planning to read over the holidays, because it just sounds like such a fun blend of different things that I love. I love mysteries, I love romance, and I love Christmas-themed books, so I think this one will be great. I hope it will be great. And yeah, maybe if you've been looking for something to read over the holidays, that could be something to put on your stack of books as well. So those are the books I wanted to talk about, and I think I've talked for long enough now. So I will wrap it up here. As I said, I will hopefully be able to record a video of my plans or something else that I can still put up. But as for podcast episodes, this will be the last one of the year, because I don't really feel like filming over Christmas with my family there. So I will just say goodbye here. I hope you have wonderful holidays, time off, if you celebrate or don't celebrate, just a very nice passing into the new year as well. And I will see you on the other side, hopefully with lots more knitting in 2025. I can't believe we're gonna have 2025 soon. It's so weird. But anyways, time passes, right? So I will see you on the other side, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day when you're watching this. Let me know what you're making in the comments. Always curious to hear about that. And if you feel like it, give the video a like or subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.